Hello, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. My name is Deadponic, and welcome back to another episode of Deadponic Talks. So, for this episode, I wanted to kind of focus on a subject that is kind of more broad, but also give my thoughts on it. And originally, this was going to be a Canada Day episode, but I decided against that because I have my own thoughts about the whole political situation and how I feel regarding, everything going on in the world. And it is currently 11:32 on July 5th. So this video will probably go out either Monday or Tuesday, so keep that in mind. But so the subject I wanted to focus on today is regarding being a YouTuber and some of the issues that I personally have encountered over the course of my long, tenuous career as a YouTuber, which will be about 10 years, believe it or not. Funny enough. So, just to get some of the broader strokes out of the way, the main thing that I noticed, starting off, the main thing that I always try to say when starting a new YouTube channel, or especially being a new YouTuber, is don't let things like the algorithm dissuade you. Like the algorithm is there as kind of more of as kind of a balancing act. It it's not there to you know it's not there to like hamper people unless the algorithm itself is not favoring you. But I'll get to that in a minute. So the first struggle that I struggled with was the first problem I struggled with. Sorry, to be more specific, is I struggled with like getting views and getting subscribers as a whole because back in the day, YouTube was a very different platform, and unfortunately, it also was plagued with another thing that has become it's been smoothed out, but it's still a prominent thing with Quantum TV and Ackman and that whole thing and what Quantum was doing around that time. But the idea of copyright infringement or making false claims, and then essentially any money that you make from that video goes to the claimer and not it doesn't. And then even if you dispute it and win, they still get to keep all the money. I mean, there's a video about that Nostalgia Critic made about fair use and all that, and it's still kind of relevant today. But with the way that the platform is now, they've kind of fixed that problem. Thank goodness. But the other thing is that it comes down to sometimes like you encounter some people on the internet, generally speaking, but not necessarily on YouTube, but I say maybe like Twitter/X, or maybe Facebook, or even sometimes even well, you do get it a little bit on what is it on Reddit sometimes, but I don't really go on Reddit, so I don't know. But the big thing that I've seen is there are a lot of like social media platforms that have been used, at least in the last couple of years, that have been used to openly attack other content creators, particularly of the YouTube creators, as well as some other ones, namely, I would argue, OnlyFans creators. But that's an entirely different topic I don't want to touch because that's a whole nother can of worms. But it does have it does bring up a lot of things because YouTube is very, I wouldn't say lax, but they do have ways to deal with people who have the whole starting attacking other YouTubers and all that. They have a system in place that generally speaking protects them, but it doesn't always work 100%. And the big one for me that I found is that when someone makes like a mean comment, or post something like really shitty about you on your one of your videos, and the system now has it where you can actually remove that comment. You can actually block that user from posting on your videos or even seeing your videos in the first place. But they don't necessarily, but they can get around this through other means, like say, making another account. And basically, it's this never-ending cycle. And that, I think that's one of the bigger problems, in my opinion at least. It also comes with some other caveats, but it also has there's this silver lining where the person is engaging you, giving you engagement and views and comments. So technically, you could argue that this is kind of a good thing, but it really depends what you're looking at, how you're looking at it. In my opinion, I feel like I'm like taking advantage of people like picking on me. Not that getting views for a video that you worked really hard on is a good thing. Like even if it's kind of like has like bad faith and all that, like people are gonna hate on it. But that's where the dislike button exists. Thank God they put that back. Oh my goodness, that was a weird time for YouTube. So the other issue that I find is, this is a personal one for me personally, is dealing with SEO. That comes down to three basic steps, which is your thumbnail, your title, and particularly your tags. I have not figured out how to exactly like work the system to my advantage regarding SEO, but I'm slowly learning, and once I learn something, I can become pretty good at it, and that's one of the things that I talked about in one of my other episodes. Is when I pick up a skill, I become pretty good at it. I wouldn't say I'm the best, but I can learn pretty quickly because I'm a visual learner. So once I pick that skill up, it it actually like it becomes a skill that I can like use, and I'm pretty good at it. I get pretty good at it. But when it comes to specifically content creation, it becomes a case of, do I like, is this a skill that I should develop, or should I, gradually learn this skill until I've gotten enough of a following? And that leads me to another thing. Um, Particularly like, for me personally, I don't chase subscribers, I don't chase views when it comes to making certain videos. But recently, I've been getting a lot of requests for a very specific kind of video. Now, I'm not going to talk about why. I have a very like, not I have more of a passive aggressive stance, I would say, regarding this type of video, because the thing that makes the reason why I don't do that particular kind of video is it just doesn't interest me. And it's not the kind of thing that it's not the kind of content I want to make. Like, if I want to make a specific kind of content, then I will do it. And regardless of what people say. If people want to watch a very specific kind of content, there are people that make that specific kind of content that they can watch. They don't have to request me to do it specifically. Is it a case of, oh, it's just like, oh, I made this one video a long time ago and people want more? Maybe. But that leads to another thing. I have this really bad habit of starting a series and then either not finishing it or stopping it about halfway through. So that's that is one of my personal pet peeves. But there's also another part of that formula that people may or may not know about, is particularly the preparation. The preparation is particularly painful because you have to, well, if you're recording console game videos, you have to set up your setup, record the video, you have to edit it in your editing software, whatever editing software you want to use, which takes time. And if you don't have, say, I don't know, a soundproof room, then obviously you're going to catch background noise. But that doesn't really matter depending on your setup for your mic, because a lot of mics or mic setups, they generally have something called a pop filter, which funnels out background noise, or at least noise from like a person's mouth, so there's no like spitting and there's no weird stuff going on, essentially. And that's kind of what I have my new setup here, which I'm actually going to be start using, which I'm very happy with. And I personally feel like it feels like I'm kind of I when I say like I don't want to um like I don't want to make a specific kind of content. I feel if I started doing that, then I would end up pigeonholing myself, and that's something I don't want. I do not want that, because it puts a lot of expectations on me. It puts a lot of stress on me, and it puts a lot of time and energy that I feel is wasted. And that's just a me thing. The one of the other things I've also noticed is when it comes to making videos specifically, depending on how you intend to make the video, like if you have like a professional editor and you want specific things done, that's great and all. But for somebody who has over like only like 360, I think 360, I have to check, but at least over 300, um, and is mostly a solo creator. I've been doing a lot of collabs as of late recently, so that's fine. I mean, collabs are fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with a collab, unless you happen to run into one of those YouTubers who is kind of obnoxious. But I'll get to that in a minute. But I feel like I don't know. It's one of those things that you have to kind of push forward with, and you have to look at it with a kind of a grain of salt, and you also have to be wary of some other things where you have to be wary of pigeonholing yourself, and that leads into collaborations. Collaborations can be a great thing. They are one of those things that is absolutely amazing for smaller YouTubers, because of how not only is the one you're collaborating with, if they're like a big YouTuber, like they have over 1,000 subscribers, they can say, "Hey, go check this person out. Like they make some pretty good content," and kind of thing. And also, the fact that you're collaborating with a big YouTuber. I'm still genuinely shocked that I was able to get like um not only talk to Lightning Bolt Forever, who I really like his content. I really like that he is kind of opening himself up, because he makes some really good content regarding like something like, say, the Star Wars videos that he does. And I'm actually I'm actually thinking about doing like Jedi Academy, so that I can beat him to the punch, and maybe I can give some tips and all that. But collaborations can be really good, or they can be, kind of a double-edged sword, because sometimes you'll run into that one obnoxious YouTuber, and sometimes you'll run into that YouTuber who kind of mostly steals the spotlight from you, and they don't. I'm sure they don't mean to, but it just happens that way. And then you get the YouTubers who are absolutely obnoxious. You get your Jake Pauls, your PewDiePies, that kind of thing, where you get like they don't necessarily like. I'm sure they're, decent people in real life, but when it comes to their YouTube persona, it's a case of they've gone through like a bunch of scandals. Like Logan Paul is like infamous for like the whole, fighting, what was it, Mike Tyson, I think, and it wasn't even a match, but because he's like a popular YouTuber, of course people who subscribe to him are gonna watch that. And then you got people like, say, Markiplier and Jacksepticeye. Like, they're not obnoxious. In fact, they treat their celebrity status with quite a lot of humility, which I respect. And they've also learned how to juggle the the personal life and the persona life. And I think that that really is something that I've been trying to do, is just that whole idea of keeping the personal life and and the YouTube life two very separate things. And sometimes I'll talk about my own personal life, but I prefer to keep myself. It's like the workplace. You keep those any personal problems you have separate, unless it's related to a video you're making, and then well, if you've watched my Let's Get Personal video, then you know that I struggle with depression constantly, and I struggle with anxiety, and I have a little bit of perpetual anger, which I am thankfully getting past. Like, I am learning to work within the limits, and also discovering my limits as well, because I have limitations. I have things that I am not good at. I have things I'm great at. One of my things is that I think one of my things is the social cues thing. I'm not very good at making friends. Like, it's difficult for me to make friends, let alone keep friendships, and particularly relationships. Relationships are a big thing for, like, but that's a whole nother thing that I really don't want to get into. But getting back on track, one of the things that I've also learned is how a YouTuber treats their audience, and how they're also where they stand on certain things. Like, I've caused a lot of chaos on the internet because I have openly stated, and I have made my stance on this particularly clear, that I believe that Shrek 2 is not a very good film. In fact, I think it's one of the worst sequels ever. But I will probably never make a video stating that unless I'm feeling particularly spicy and I want to shake things up. I also I also refuse to make content regarding very specific types of games and very specific kinds of specific content, if you will. Like, for example, CS:GO. I have no interest in playing that game. I hate that game. Like, if I could, if there was one game I would probably delete from the face of the earth, it would be probably be that game, because there are a lot of things about that game that I despise. The big one for me personally has always been the that aspect of gambling, like, to basically spend like hundreds of thousands or hundreds of dollars just to get a one knife that has a very unique skin. And then there's also the skill issue. From my understanding, at least, there's the whole thing where it's one of those games where once you're dead, you're dead. I mean, that's more of a competitive thing. It's like Siege, but Siege has a competitive following because of esports. But the fact remains is that, and it may also be, a skill issue. That's a whole other subject that I don't want to talk about. But the whole the skill issue thing is just a it may also come from the fact that you're playing with mouse and keyboard, and if your reflexes aren't pitch perfect, you're going to struggle. But also the fact that, to my understanding, CS:GO does not have a typical deathmatch mode where once you die you can respawn. It doesn't work like that, and that's one thing that kind of turned me off from it, as well as Siege. I decided not to make any more Siege content because it's just not my thing. And well, I'm not good at the game, but I just don't like the fact that once you're dead, you stay dead until, the next round. Which I feel also, there's also the whole idea of, hackers and, also the CSGO community as a whole is really obnoxious, I found. Like, if you're not constantly, like, doing the cycling, if you're not using the op all the time, if you're not constantly cycling your weapons, you're just a bad player. It's like, I don't want to deal with that. But hey, I play League of Legends, but thankfully I know how to deal with League of Legends people who are toxic. So that's a whole thing I don't want to I'm kind of nervous about talking about, to be totally honest. But yeah, there's that. I just it's just not a game I'm interested in playing. And the other kind of games I'm not really interested in playing anymore, making content about. The one that kind of bugged me originally was actually the Minecraft videos. I made a lot of mistakes on those videos, but I feel like if I ever go back and start doing Minecraft videos again, I feel it's just going to be the same old stuff. It's not going to be original. And that leads to another criticism I have regarding very specific things. Uh the big one for me is the lack of original content. Like you see like let's take like the cat video for example. You see hundreds of these videos on YouTube. But then you get but occasionally you'll get the video where it's just the person talking over the funny bit. Like basically narration. And nobody likes that. Nobody likes the narration over the bit. Unless you're watching America's Funniest Home Videos, and then that's a totally different thing. They do that specifically for the setup to the gag, which I'm fine with. But there's also with the rise of things like TikTok, it's like YouTube as a whole when it comes to shorts, it's just not it's just not worth making shorts on YouTube. Like if you want to watch an obnoxious video about something, that's what TikTok's for, at least in my opinion. And I don't see the appeal of TikTok. I've tried making a couple shorts, but they've honestly kind of it's just not something that I want to invest in essentially. Even if it does generate views and generates new subscribers, it's something that it's just not interesting to me. But that goes back to another thing that has always bugged me about being a YouTuber is the editing. When you're editing for say, I don't know, an hour and a half, that hour and a half takes a lot out of you. And it's just to get like maybe like 10 minutes of footage fully edited takes like an hour and a half, and that's insane. And granted, there are people that do this full time, but I personally think like every so often take a break, like get out in the world, like see the roses kind of thing. That's why I always try to take a break, and I don't sit on my end for long periods of time doing editing. And I try to avoid that as much as I can. Like that is one goal that I'm trying to do. I'm also trying to, exercise a little bit more. And I've got, you know, I have my ways of, doing things for exercise. And I think, going out to do Timmy's run, walking there, walking back is a good thing. Like getting your daily exercise is a good thing. I walk my neighbor's dog, which is always a good thing. It's always good to get some kind of exercise. And I feel that's some YouTubers like they need to like some people like are okay with, sitting on their rear for long periods of time, but not to, harp on them, but that's just not something that I want to do because it also because of my bad hip, I have to take a break every so often, and it's painful. I don't know, like there's also, the mental struggles which are talked about with the whole, talking about, editing for long periods of time. That doesn't just affect you mentally, it also can affect you physically because, you we're human after all. We need sleep, we need sustenance, we need, time to ourselves. And when you're not, busy sitting there for 3 hours editing videos, you gotta have your relaxed time, and that can interfere with things. And I don't know, it doesn't feel right to me. But it's something that I chose to become a YouTuber, and I feel it's kind of it's worth the pain and misery. In the end, as long as you're making quality videos, and as long as you are proud of the videos that you're making and the content you're making, then nobody has the right to judge you. And I say that from experience because I've seen a lot of like amateur videos, and I may have my opinion about the amateur editing and all that. I don't hold it against the person unless they just are, really bad at editing, or they just want to make a video and make it as obnoxious as possible. And I have tried my hardest not to engage in that kind of thing because it goes against my principles as a person, but also just it just doesn't it's just not something I want to make sure my audience knows where I stand on certain things and regarding, what kind of content I make and what kind of things I want to make. For example, the Versus series. That is a taxing um, thing to get type of video to make because there's research. You got to get all your images. You got to get your video files. You got to get your audio files. You got to put all of it together. And I still harp on myself for that first Versus video that I made was it's loaded with problems. And most of the problems are related to my side of things. Now, Orange, I'm not going to harp on Orange too much because it was our first collaboration. So I don't hold it against him. But I'm still critical because of how. Maybe it's just because I'm something of a perfectionist and I want to make sure my content is good quality rather than, just churning out a piece of content just to get it out. And I figure that's the best way to do things because quality over quantity. Unless, the algorithm turns against you and you're suddenly forced to basically upload on a daily basis, which is just not something I want to do because it's very taxing. Not to mention I have a personal life. I have other things I have to worry about. I have to, I don't have a job right now, but I'm on a government program, so I don't. I mean, finding a job is great and all, but it means also that my benefit goes down. But I'm not too concerned about that, and that's kind of that's a topic for another video, unfortunately. And it's a case of me personally, if there's anything I regret regarding my YouTube career, it's I definitely should have invested more in quality equipment and making quality videos over quantity. And, refining my process because that was something that was hurting me in the long term. And now it's not necessarily an issue anymore because I still make quality videos, but I don't put out as many. Like I may do like maybe one or two a month, and I'm perfectly okay with that. Or I may put out say 3 videos a month, or maybe once a week, so that I can meet my daily quota, and that's probably gonna be my new goal is one video a week, so that I can fulfill a quota. And also people are wondering, hey, did you leave YouTube? Where are you? It's like, did you take a break or anything? And that's something that I want. That's something I will definitely do. I will definitely try to stick to that schedule. But the other thing that I'm trying to also kind of maybe not avoid, but also one of those things that you see a lot of popular YouTubers do, like especially Rad Brad. Anytime a new game comes out, you have to make a video on it. But I prefer to make gaming videos on games that are either obscure or underappreciated, and that's just a me thing. Like my big one is, Half-Life 2, Gun. Gun was especially one that I wanted to do for a long time. A couple Spyro videos, Crash Bandicoot, Final Fantasy X especially, and especially with Final Fantasy IX with the 25th anniversary coming up, or but depending on when this video comes out, it'll probably be the 25th anniversary. But I those are videos that I want to make and I want to invest my time in. And I think that's a good thing. I think putting passion behind your work is so important, because if you're just making lazy content, you're not really throwing passion, you're not putting passion into your work. And at that point, like, it just kind of baffles me. And I'm not trying to say, oh, don't make, quantity over quality videos. If you need to get some kind of content out, then go by all means. But don't sacrifice the quality. And don't do amateur editing. Like, that is a big criticism, is amateur editing. Well, it can have, if you're just starting out, oh, that's perfectly fine. But if you're a professional YouTuber, or you have a decent following, then you're probably gonna, if you're doing amateur editing, you're probably gonna struggle. So yeah, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned. I'm definitely going to be doing a lot more content within the next couple weeks, because in between all the editing that I'm currently working on. But I've got something kind of special planned, so we'll see how that goes. Until then, I will see you guys later.